Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with the first of a few presentations looking at how Mao consolidated his hold on power. When Mao stood on top of the gates of the Forbidden City on October the 1st, 1949, he announced to the 100,000 crammed into Tiananmen Square below him the founding of the People's Republic of China, declaring that we, the 475 million Chinese people, have stood up and our future is infinitely bright. And there lies his first major problem: how to unite such an enormous country with such an enormous population. But there were other huge problems to be tackled, and key decisions had to be made. There were a number of priorities after the century of humiliation: the return of the country's sovereignty, the reconstruction of the state and of unitary government, how to embed communist values whilst modernising the country, industrialising it, and encompassing everything, how to restore unity. And what kind of China was about to unfold? A communist state on the model of the Soviet Union? What Confucian principles, if any, would survive? What would happen to the existing bureaucracy? What about the land issue? What about the private enterprises in the cities? How will the wealthy peasants and the bourgeoisie be treated? What about Kuomintang supporters? These were the questions, and many more besides, that the Chinese people must have been asking themselves at the end of 1949. Mao, of course, pondered these questions too. The Chinese Revolution is a great revolution, he said, but the road beyond is longer and the work to come greater and more arduous. We should be capable of not only destroying the old world, we must also be capable of creating the new. Huge problems, but Mao had already set his mind to addressing them. In On the People's Democratic Dictatorship, written 3 months before the People's Republic of China was proclaimed, Mao explained that the new state would be a People's Republic, a state of the People's Democratic Dictatorship. He would form a national united front, to include the peasantry and workers, of course, but also the petty bourgeoisie, and too the national bourgeoisie, patriotic capitalists. Still taking his new democracy stance, in which the bourgeoisie were encouraged to work with the communists in the People's Democratic Dictatorship, Mao declared that China must utilise all elements of urban and rural capitalism that are beneficial and not harmful to the national economy. Our present policy is to control, not to eliminate capitalism, he said, though it would be under the firm control of the Chinese Communist Party, and the ultimate goal would be a socialist and then a communist society. Those outside of Mao's definition of the people, the enemies of the people, notably landlords and bureaucratic bourgeoisie, and imperialists and Kuomintang supporters, would face the wrath of the People's Dictatorship, unless they were willing to repent and then change their ways. In September, so still before the Republic had been proclaimed in Tiananmen Square, Mao issued 2 statements of intent. The organic law guaranteed a role for other groups, whilst the common programme guaranteed civil and human rights, including freedom of speech, of movement, of religion, and equal rights for women. Policy guidelines were also given with regard to minorities. As for the economy, land reform was to continue, and a priority was to be given to developing heavy industry. The communists were genuinely setting out to be as inclusive as possible. Yes, there would be a second stage to the revolution, and if necessary, they were prepared to be ruthless. But at this stage, there was a willingness to accommodate others, though you could say a pragmatic need too. And just how or when the second stage of the revolution would pan out was not determined. Mao was made chairman of the People's Republic of China, and Zhou Enlai its premier, heading the principal executive council, the State Council. A number of non-communists were given positions in the new state, if largely without any real power. The Constitution, formally promulgated in 1954, gave the CCP the leading role, but also provided freedom and a meaningful political role for the democratic parties. It reflected the national nature of the revolution, a bureaucracy fed down from the centre to the provinces, counties and villages. However, the key decision-making organs were monopolised by the Communist Party. The Central Committee, the Politburo and the Standing Committee, supported by the People's Liberation Army, the PLA. The Republic was divided into 6 regions known as Bureau, which were answerable to the Central People's Government Council, led by Mao. Each of the Bureau was administered by 4 chief officials: chairman, party secretary, military commander and political commissar. The last 2 would be officers in the PLA, so underlining the PLA's central role, something that's very important to note. As for the party itself, in the very early days, before a sense of permanence led to more and more people joining it, local party organisations, which could be very small, were understandably often dominated by those who had been in the party throughout the Civil War. They might have little education and little experience of running any kind of organisation, but they had proven their loyalty to the cause. Their unquestionable zeal for the revolution could lead to a rather unbending view of things, and expectation of how egalitarian principles, for example, might be put into practice. But that's how it had to be for now. It enabled the CCP to quickly gain a firmer control of China than the Kuomintang had ever achieved. Manchuria was fully reintegrated into China. Kuomintang resistance was crushed. Regions were brought under control, and Tibet was liberated. I put that in inverted commas. All by the end of the year. An agreement was reached with India the following year that left Tibet a large degree of autonomy, whilst recognising ultimate Chinese responsibility for the region. Outer Mongolia remained an independent state. Hong Kong remained a British colony. Almost the entire border with the Soviet Union needed clarifying, and there was also the issue of Taiwan. A first step was taken to win back the island, but was unsuccessful, with events in Korea raising America's vigilance in the region. The Kuomintang were able to consolidate their hold on the island, as the PRC were obliged to back off. And so huge problems were met with immediate, if temporary, solutions, and Mao's hold on power was consolidated. I do hope this video proves useful for you. Don't forget there's my website, History Made Easier, that's there to help you too. Do check it out if you haven't already. But for now, let me thank you, as I always do, for listening, and wish you the very best of luck with your studies. Cheers.